Let's get one thing out of the way. Failing sucks. There's no escaping that. It's frustrating, it's uncomfortable, and sometimes it makes you want to throw in the towel entirely. But here's the truth about failure. It's one of the most powerful ways to learn. Think about it. When things go smoothly, you don't spend much time dissecting why they worked. You celebrate, you move on, but you don't dig deep. Failure, on the other hand, it forces you to pause, analyze, and ask the hard questions. It challenges you to think differently and, more often than not, leads to breakthroughs you wouldn't have reached otherwise. In fact, failure is like the gym for your brain. Sure, it hurts in the moment, but that's where the growth happens. And the best part? Once you've learned something from it, failure doesn't feel quite so painful anymore. It starts to feel like progress. In the world of AI, failure isn't just a possibility, it's a constant. Models don't work perfectly the first time. Algorithms behave unpredictably. Data is messy, incomplete, or biased. But here's the thing. Every failure in AI is a lesson waiting to be uncovered. For example, let's talk about predictive models. Early on, they often misfire, predicting the wrong outcomes or missing the mark entirely. But every time they fail, they provide feedback. Maybe the dataset wasn't representative enough. Maybe the algorithm wasn't properly tuned. Each failure sharpens the process, making the model more accurate and effective over time. Here's a real-world story. One of our clients at Data and Analytics launched a marketing campaign powered by AI. They had all the right tools, a huge dataset, and high expectations. But the campaign bombed. The predictions were off, the targeting didn't connect, and the results were far from what they imagined. Now they could have written it off as a disaster, but instead they leaned into the failure. They analyzed what went wrong. It turned out their data wasn't as clean as they thought, and they were relying on outdated assumptions about their audience. That insight changed everything. They adjusted their model, updated their data, and the next campaign? A runaway success. That initial failure wasn't just a setback, it became the foundation for growth. Okay, so how do you turn failure into progress? It starts with mindset. Instead of viewing failure as an endpoint, see it as a signal. It's telling you something isn't working, and that's incredibly valuable information. Step 1. Embrace the failure. Don't sugarcoat it or sweep it under the rug. Acknowledge it, own it, and get comfortable with it. Step 2. Analyze the failure. Dig into what went wrong and why. Was it a technical issue, a data problem, or maybe a strategic misstep? Step 3. Apply what you've learned. This is where the magic happens. Use the insights from your failure to refine your approach, improve your processes, and come back stronger. This isn't just theory, it's how some of the most successful innovations in history have come to life. Think about Thomas Edison. When asked about his thousands of failed attempts to invent the light bulb, he famously said, "I didn't fail. I just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That mindset wasn't just resilience, it was genius. Let's not pretend failure doesn't hurt. It does. It can knock your confidence, make you question your abilities, and leave you wondering if you're even on the right path. But here's the secret. The pain of failure is temporary, but the lessons you take from it can last forever. When you're in the middle of a failure, it's easy to feel stuck. But if you zoom out, you'll see that every failure is just a step on the path to success. It's not the end of the road. It's a curve in the journey. And sometimes the lessons you learn from failing are the ones that lead you to your biggest wins. Let me share a personal story. Early in my career, I worked on a project that I was convinced was going to be groundbreaking. The plan was solid, the data looked great, and the team was fired up. But when we launched, total flop. The results weren't just disappointing, they were embarrassing. For a while, I couldn't even talk about it. It felt like this massive failure was all anyone would remember about me. But then I did what I'm asking you to do. I leaned into the failure. I looked at what went wrong and I realized there were blind spots in our data analysis and gaps in our strategy. What I learned from that experience shaped the way I approach every project today. That failure, as painful as it was, became one of the most valuable lessons of my career. It made me better. Here's the bottom line. Failure sucks. There's no denying it. But if you're learning from it, it's not really failure. It's growth in disguise. In AI, in business, in life, every failure is a chance to learn, to adapt, and to come back stronger. So, the next time you hit a wall, remember this. It's not about avoiding failure. It's about what you do with it. Because when you turn failure into a lesson, suddenly it's not so hard to handle. In fact, it might just be the best thing that ever happened to you. Oh, I almost forgot to mention something from the last slide. You know what's even better than learning from your own failures? Learning from other people's failures. Seriously, why go through the pain yourself when someone else already did? And let me tell you, there's one failure I see over and over again that drives me absolutely insane: inflexibility. Just thinking about it makes my blood boil. Inflexibility has tanked so many great ideas, ruined promising projects, and left incredible teams stuck in the mud. It's one of those things that just gets under my skin. You know the type. But we've always done it this way. Or we can't change now. Really? Really? You'd rather sink the ship than adjust the sails? Honestly, nothing gets me more frustrated. I mean, come on, it's 2025. The world changes every 5 minutes, and you're telling me you can't budge? Wooza. Deep breath. Wooza. Here's the thing. Inflexibility isn't just stubbornness, it's the killer of progress. When companies cling too tightly to old ways of thinking or resist adapting to new challenges, they're setting themselves up for failure. The market shifts, technology evolves, and customer expectations change. But if you're not willing to adapt, I've seen it happen. A company gets too comfortable with their proven strategies. They ignore the signs that the world around them is changing. Then a competitor comes in, faster, more agile, and ready to embrace the future, and suddenly that proven strategy doesn't look so smart anymore. Being inflexible is like trying to steer a boat with a rusted wheel. The winds change, the currents shift, but you're stuck going in the same direction, straight into disaster. And when the crash happens, you'll wish you'd been willing to pivot. So, how do you avoid this all too common failure? First, you've got to build a culture of adaptability. This means encouraging your team to challenge the status quo, experiment with new ideas, and embrace change instead of fearing it. Second, listen to the signals. The market is always talking. It's up to you to pay attention. If your customers are asking for something new, don't dismiss it. If your competitors are moving faster, don't get defensive. Learn, adjust, and keep moving. And third, don't be afraid to fail fast and move on. Being flexible doesn't mean you'll get everything right on the first try. It means you're willing to make mistakes, learn from them, and keep going. The more adaptable you are, the better equipped you'll be to handle whatever comes next. Look, inflexibility isn't just frustrating, it's dangerous. It's the enemy of growth, the destroyer of opportunities, and one of the biggest reasons great companies fall behind. But here's the good news. Flexibility isn't about throwing out everything you know. It's about staying open, listening, and adjusting when the situation calls for it. So, let me ask you, are you steering your ship with an open hand, ready to adjust the wheel? Or are you clinging to the same course, hoping the winds don't change? Because trust me, they will. And when they do, the ones who are ready to adapt will be the ones who thrive. USA. Deep breath. Let's keep moving forward because the future waits for no one.